This is Old School Queenie, yeah. Old School Queenie's Couples Podcast. And this is my Topic Tuesday. Yeah, Topic Tuesday episode that I'm bringing you live from my old school studio apartment. Yes, I am. I am sharing poor people's news. This is poor people's news, whatever number it is going up and up. But poor people's news, yeah, it's old news that needs to be repeated, okay? Yeah, because some of you have missed my Topic Tuesdays and you missed the last poor people's news. You need to go back and rewind and take a listen. You need to binge listen on some poor people's news because it has a little history lesson in some of those news articles as well. Some of those news clips that I caught, it do bring you some education and it helps wake up your colonized mind. I'm talking to you black folks, colonized minds, okay? So wake up, let's be woke and listen to some poor people's news. Yeah, it's relevant to today. That's why I'm repeating it. Yeah, it's old news. Yeah, it happened months back or weeks back, but it is relevant to us poor people today. So let's take a listen, because I'm in the house. All right, I caught this off of the India TV about Iran's demands. They had about 4 or 5 demands to the president on this war that they would agree to, or that if Israel and U.S. wanted to stop the war, here is Iran's demands, and India got the juice on it, that Iran sent out 5 or 4 demands to if they want Iran to stop the war. So take a listen.
By the enemy. Number 2. The establishment of concrete mechanisms to ensure that war is not reimposed on the Islamic Republic. The 3rd condition, guaranteed and clearly defined payment of war damages and reparations. The 4th condition is the conclusion of the war across all fronts. By that they obviously mean Israel's continuous attack on the Hezbollah proxy group in Lebanon and also throughout the region. That's the 4th demand. The last demand put forth by Iran is international recognition and guarantees regarding Iran's sovereign right to exercise authority over the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay, you heard Iran's 4 demands. Now, here is what they captured about Iran saying there's no talks going on. I don't know why Donald Trump keep lying about there's some talks between them going on. It's fake news.
Mohammed, what we're hearing from Iranian leaders, essentially they're saying that there are no talks taking place.
Absolutely, that's right. The most outstanding commentary on what President Trump said today is Mohammed Baqir Khalifah. He's Speaker of the Parliament and one of the most important, most outstanding remaining leaders in Iran here today. And he was very outspoken, very clear in what he said. No negotiations have been held with the US, and fake news is used to manipulate the financial and oil markets and escape the quagmire in which the US and Israel are trapped. So that's the strongest commentary, and it is completely contrary to what President Trump has said. There is a lot of activity on the other side by the foreign minister. Talked to several counterparts in the region and beyond. He talked even to the South Korean foreign minister, to the Pakistani foreign minister, to the Omani foreign minister. But most of the discussions centered around Iran's demands and Iran's stance, firm and unchanged regarding the Strait of Hormuz, regarding what Iran wants in terms of guarantees and so on. So the Iranians are talking in these 2 voices. One of them is rejecting completely that there is any kind of talks, and the other one is diplomatically engaged in negotiations, or at least in phone calls with world leaders, clarifying and explaining Iran's position and stance in this regard.
Mohammed, just stay there for us. We are going to come back to you. Now, we're going to bring in John Hendren, who's in Washington. Now, despite, John, Iran denying all these talks are happening, the White House is very confident that progress is being made. Do we think that's actually true?
Well, we don't really know what is true about these talks. For one thing, we're not even sure who the White House is talking to. There's been a report in Axios, and it was mentioned just now that Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, two negotiators for the president, one being his son-in-law, have been talking to the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament. He denies it, so it's not clear who else the White House might be talking to, but Trump had set himself up for this ultimatum. He said that if the Strait of Hormuz was not clear, he was going to order the Pentagon to start bombing energy infrastructure. That would have been on Monday. And he pulled back from that with these talks. So, you know, there's a good question to be asked there. So what exactly the White House is up to? Is it really talking to somebody who is representing the Iranian government? Is it just talking to someone in Iran that it has decided could represent the Iranian government? We just don't know the answers to that. But it was enough for the president to ask the Pentagon to stop targeting or not to target energy infrastructure. So that is where we are. What happens over these next 5 days, we don't know.
John, stay there. I'm going to go back to Mohammed Val, who's in Tehran for us. Now, the threat of US attacks on Iranian power plants has been hanging over the country since the weekend. Now, that has to be worrying for the public.
Absolutely, and the population is aware of this. People are very much alert to this situation, to this unprecedented threat. Many people in Tehran have never witnessed such a scenario when the whole city might be in darkness for days and probably for weeks. I'm hearing a large explosion now. So, I mean, they are alert to this. There is a lot of talk about it, and posters in the streets, on the walls in the streets, talking about how to deal with that situation if it happens. And I understand also, we heard that some people have left the capital. More people are leaving the capital, Tehran, in fear of what might happen if the power stations are completely destroyed. So it's a really frightening situation in the country, and people are bracing for it. But they are also talking about possibility that Trump is just bluffing, and sometimes he says something and he doesn't do it. But that's not the most important position among the most of the population. Most of the people are taking this seriously, and they are really not happy with it. And some of them are trying to take procedures to avoid what it can cause in their life.
That's Mohammed Val in Tehran. Let's go back to John Hendren, who's in Washington. John, you were just talking there about what we don't know, but what we do know is that this is a massive change in rhetoric from the White House. You know, they were threatening to bomb civilian infrastructure, and now they're talking about a deal. So that's whiplash, effectively, right?
Yeah, it is enough to give you whiplash listening to this, massive threats of retaliation, and then all of a sudden this talk that there's been so much progress toward a complete and total resolution, according to the president, that they're able to stop hostilities or at least attacks on energy facilities. So what does this mean? There are a few different options here. As has been suggested by people in Iran, if the president is trying to goose the market, it's worked. Oil prices went down, the market has gone up. He might be trying for strategic ambiguity, that is, you know, where you offer a confusing or conflicting message to the other side so they don't really know what you're going to do. And there's one other possibility here, and that is in 5 days, the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit will be arriving in that region, and that's 2,200 troops, and those troops are designed to operate on the ground in coordination with air and sea assets. So if they were to start an operation, that would buy them some strategic time. We don't know that that's what we're doing, and in fact, the U.S. Central Command says it is continuing bombing targets. It might simply be that the U.S. has suspended bombing on energy targets, but this was something the U.S. Central Command put out just a couple of hours ago. So there are a lot of confusing messages going on right now, and we just simply don't know where it's going to end.
That's John Hendricks live for us in Washington, D.C. Now, President Trump says he thinks Israel will be on board with any deal that he negotiates.
We just spoke to Israel a little while ago. I think they'll be very happy. This will be peace for Israel, long-term peace, guaranteed peace. If this happens, and I can't guarantee it, but I think it's going to, my life is a deal. That's all I do is deals, my whole life. I think this is something that's going to happen. And why wouldn't it happen?
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says he's spoken with President Trump, and he gave this statement just a short while ago.
Earlier today, I spoke with our friend President Trump. President Trump believes that there is an opportunity to leverage the great achievements of the IDF and the US military to realize the goals of the war in an agreement that will safeguard our vital interests. In parallel, we continue to attack both in Iran and Lebanon. We are methodically dismantling the missile program and the nuclear program and continue to hit Hezbollah hard. Just a few days ago, we eliminated 2 more nuclear scientists. We will safeguard our vital interests in any agreement.
Now, Rob McBride is following developments in Israel from the Jordanian capital, Amman. Now, both leaders suggesting that they're on the same page, but Benjamin Netanyahu just there saying that in parallel, we're going to continue our attacks on Iran.
Yeah, that's right. Publicly, of course, Netanyahu has to show this display of unity that they and their US allies are in lockstep when it comes to dealing with Iran militarily. But he will be concerned about what happens in the coming days, about being potentially swept up in this whiplash diplomacy of the Trump administration. There are many considerations, many possible next steps. What happens, for example, if the US, as a condition of getting into formal talks, suddenly announces a cessation of hostilities, calls for a stop on the attacks on Iran, and tells Israel to do so. Israel has given no indication that it will stop its attacks. It could potentially continue, but that would be troublesome, going against the senior partner in this endeavor. And as they might, though, Netanyahu have to accept the military achievements they have made, and then take his chips off the table, so to speak. And it was only a day or so ago that the Israel's military chief was saying that in his estimate, they are only halfway through their military objectives. They still have an estimated 3 weeks of hard fighting still to go. And then for Netanyahu, of course, there is the consideration of domestic politics, with elections coming up in October, and what he will have to show the Israeli people, what has been worth all of this fighting, the privations of this war. He had promised at the start to bring about a regime change. It seems as though the US is moving towards negotiations with the same regime, a promise to completely defang Iran when it comes to their long-range missiles. Well, just this Monday night, we have had yet more alarms across Israel with incoming missiles from Iran.
Rob McBride there, live for us in Amman. Now, as Rob mentioned, Israeli attacks on Iran have continued. One strike has demolished an apartment building in Tehran. Tawhid Asadi visited the scene of the attack.
This is day 24 since the commencement of a campaign of airstrikes by the Americans and Israelis, and here we are at one of the residential areas targeted earlier in the morning. And as you can see, the scope of damage and destruction is quite visible. Bodies were taken out and rescue teams are still working. The Red Crescent says more than 81,000 civilian units have been hit, most of them residential buildings. But the damage is not limited to homes. It also includes more than 270 hospitals and other healthcare facilities, more than 490 schools, and even 17 buildings belonging to the Red Crescent itself. The total death toll after weeks of airstrikes remains deeply concerning. Official figures put it at more than 1,400, but the real number is feared to be even higher.
Okay, so that is CNN. I captured this clip from CNN, International News, and that for day 24 of the war. It's old news, but it is relevant today because we need to know what's going on. We need to hear about the damage in Israel to what is it, Lebanon's bombing? Yeah, that was the strikes and all the last part, and then the fake talks that Donald Trump was talking, saying something about some talks was going on, and it wasn't. Is really lying. He really trying to up the market, trying to get the market up and all. And so Iran didn't fall for that, and other countries not falling for the lying about is some talks going on between Iran and USA and Israel. So that's what the CNN captured, and they're Cuba.
Of course, it'll make a little bit. Part of the difficulty is getting the aid throughout the country. It can arrive in Havana, but getting the other part of the country, you need oil to fuel the trucks that would take it there. And so it will help some people, but it is a very small amount. What Cuba needs is fuel oil to run electric generators. They produce about 40% of their oil needs. And without electricity, the country can't generate refrigeration for food, which does spoil. If the water pumps don't work, people can't get to their jobs, so hospitals aren't functioning. The garbage is piling up in the streets. When I was there in December, for example, there were two viruses that were epidemic throughout the country. Chikungunya, which is like an advanced arthritis, and Zika, which is a killer. It's because of the mosquitoes that hover around the garbage. The garbage isn't being picked up because the trucks don't have fuel.
And of course, the oil embargo on top of decades-long U.S. sanctions. There are people like Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, a lot of Cuban exiles in Miami who also point to internal mismanagement and corruption, Professor, as another part of the problem here.
Well, of course, the Cuban system is not functioning well, but without the U.S. blockade, without the pressure from the United States, it would do much, much better. In the mid-teens, when President Obama lifted sanctions against Cuba, there was a thriving economy, and there was extraordinary flourishing of the arts, a lot of interchange with international visitors under that same system that Cuba has now. And yes, it could be a much better system, but still, Cuba is able to provide basic health care for large part of its people. Its Human Development Index is much higher than the United States. And so, yes, it's a system that needs improvement, but without U.S. pressure, it would do much, much better.
All right, did y'all hear what is happening? What the disaster is going on in Cuba, and what happens when we don't have power? No power, so you can't flush the toilets. You need power to. Oh my God, he described everything. So they are still suffering, and I thank God that our Ghanaian president sent some troops over from Ghana to help Cuba out. Yeah, you're going to hear that too. This is Old People's News. Let's continue.
People understand how much the military is using AI now, and in what applications, really?
Well, thanks very much, Kate. I think it's important to understand that when we talk about military automation, we're talking about a really wide variety of applications. And that certainly includes autonomous weapon systems, the drones and guided munitions. But the vast use of AI are for what we call decision support systems. And these are things that provide planning, analysis, intelligence, and administrative support. And the United States military has been using various kinds of systems like this for many, many years, going on decades.
It really, the reporting I'm seeing, though, is with obviously the advancement of a... Go ahead.
Good. So when we think about targeting, there are many different tasks that range from gathering information together, analyzing different facilities, trying to understand weapons effects, looking at different units that might carry those out, analyzing the targeting plan. So AI can help with different parts of this, but it is a very, very complex bureaucratic process that has hundreds of people involved at every step.
Yeah, and to further your point, the Wall Street Journal described it this way. AI tools are helping gather intelligence, pick targets, plan bombing missions, and assess battle damage at speeds not previously possible. AI helps commanders manage supplies of everything from ammunition to spare parts and lets them choose the best weapon for each objective. And some might hear that and think that AI is doing what they fear, which is taking over for humans in warfare. But you argue that as AI is kind of turbocharging military efforts more and more, is actually making humans more essential and important, not less. Explain.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we think about AI, we think about Skynet and the Terminator and data from Star Trek. But it's better to think about just the kinds of things that an AI is used in businesses and factories all over the place. It's not that we're turning everything over to Claude, it's that you're helping to write a document here, you're having some suggestions for an intelligence lead in another place, and then a human being has to follow that up. At the end of the day, a machine can provide predictions or recommendations or maybe a route or a text suggestion, but it's up to human beings to decide what to predict and what to do with that information. We call this judgment. And there's so much information, even with AI, that actually human judgment becomes more important. So we're seeing more sophisticated processes developing. And the United States has been pursuing this kind of targeting really for the last 2 decades, since 9/11, trying to bring together all of these sources of information to find individuals or facilities and bring the right effects to bear.
You mentioned Claude, which
Colonialism.
We can't allow anyone to interfere with the territorial integrity of countries. It is a complete failure of the United Nations. The UN Security Council and its permanent members were meant to maintain peace, but they're the ones driving these wars.
Colombia's president facing new reports of a US probe into alleged links to drug trafficking, though no charges have been filed, calling for an immediate ceasefire.
If we don't want the conflict in the Middle East to escalate into a global economic catastrophe, a global social crisis, and even a possible world war, then humanity as a whole must demand, both in words and in the streets, an immediate ceasefire.
This summit is partly a response to US President Donald Trump gathering of right-wing leaders of the Americas 2 weeks ago in Florida, where he demanded loyalty for a regional initiative against crime, migration, and drug trafficking.
For some leaders, it reflects a familiar tension between US-led priorities and a push for the global South to set its own agenda. At this summit, leaders were projecting unity, but global tensions remain hard to ignore. Alessandra Pieti, Al Jazeera, Bogotá.
Now let's take a look at some of the other stories that are making news. A strike on a hospital in Sudan's East Darfur state has killed at least 64 people and destroyed a part of the facility. The World Health Organization says the Al Dain teaching facility was targeted on Friday night. Those killed include patients, 2 nurses, and a doctor. About 90 other people were injured. It is not clear yet who carried out the strike. Government forces and the paramilitary RSF have blamed each other. The two sides have been fighting for control of Sudan for the past 3 years. A humanitarian crisis in Niger's Diffa region is getting worse. Hundreds of aid organizations have been suspended as the government tightens control over international funding. That means cuts to basic food and services for thousands of displaced people. Victoria Gatenby reports.
Diffa in southeastern Niger is already dealing with the fallout from armed groups operating in the region, along with widespread poverty. Now displaced people are facing even greater uncertainty because the charities they depend on have suspended their services. Hajia Balki is preparing a meal for her children with the little flour she has left. She's been here for nearly a decade after fleeing violence between the Nigerian army and the armed group Boko Haram.
We were not happy when some NGOs stopped their activities. Many families can no longer find enough food to eat. My most urgent need is food for my children.
The suspensions are part of a government effort to audit humanitarian aid funding and enforce new regulations. But on the ground, the immediate impact has been the loss of vital support.
We have lost a very important partner.
For example, US aid supported projects promoting women's leadership and peace building in Diffa.
The closures are also affecting those who relied on relief programs for work.
What the state has decided, we as citizens obey. I used to have a construction company funded by NGOs, but when they stopped working, an entire chain of people is affected. Now I'm unemployed and I have children to support.
Diffa is in the Lake Chad region where years of conflict have forced people from their homes. Many are from Borno State in northeastern Nigeria. Diffa hosts around 175,000 displaced people and more than 120,000 refugees. There are also around 36,000 people who've returned after fleeing earlier violence, often because they have few other options. With insecurity in Diffa already high and the needs of displaced families growing, there are fears the crisis could deepen in the weeks ahead. Victoria Gatenby, Al Jazeera.
We're going to take a short break, but do stay with us. Our coverage of the war between the US, Israel, and Iran continues.
More than 80 dead and 1,200 hectares of farmland flooded. That's the latest toll from sudden floods in Kenya. Mali releases jihadists in a bid to ease the fuel crisis in Bamako. Farmers in Sao Tome and Principe commit to forest restoration for sustainable cocoa production. In Kenya, entire villages have been submerged by water in Kisumu County. The region is being severely hit by climate-related shocks. Recent torrential rains have killed more than 80 people, according to authorities. The flash floods are said to have damaged around 1,200 hectares of farmland, destroying seasonal crops. More than 3,000 families have been forced to leave their homes in the Nyakach community, according to official reports.
Heavy rains and flash floods across Kenya have killed at least 81 people, with authorities warning Sunday the toll could rise as downpours continue. In the west, entire villages in Kisumu County have been submerged with flood waters destroying farmland and sweeping away crops.
Since the last few days, we've had the raging waters of Sonomriu River that overflooded its banks, and the river has really displaced over 3,000 families. We've lost quite a number of farmland with massive erosion, and the farm plants that we had planted, maize, beans, millet, vegetables, watermelon, bananas, and many others. As we are speaking now, I'm having people who have been moved to more than 8 evacuation centers.
Residents are fleeing with what little they can carry, many forced into overcrowded evacuation centers, while others say they have nowhere left to go. We are migrating because the place where we were staying is badly flooded. We still don't know where we are going to get shelter with our animals because there is no house or home that is not flooded that we can say we can shelter in. All homes are flooded, and so for now we still don't know where to run for shelter with our animals. In Nyakach in the west, children walked through knee-high water and residents cooked water from the inundated houses. We are still stuck here. We still don't know where we are going to stay. We still don't have an idea of where we are going. We are still stuck inside these waters with the school-aged children. Scientists say climate change is increasing the intensity of extreme weather, with East Africa facing more frequent floods and droughts.
Mali has released several suspected jihadist fighters as part of an agreement aimed at ending the blockade preventing fuel supplies from reaching Bamako. A secure corridor in place until the end of May is expected to ease the country's economy, which has been suffocated by the fuel crisis.
More than 100 suspects jihadists have been freed in Mali. Official sources say the release is part of a deal to halt attacks on fuel convoys that have been strangling the capital Bamako. Since September, the Al-Qaeda affiliate JNIM has been targeting tanker trucks. The blockade was so severe in October that it brought the capital to a standstill. Local officials confirmed the release was made in exchange for opening a secure corridor for the convoys. Security sources say the truce is temporary, said to last only until the Muslim holiday of Eid al-Adha at the end of May. Representatives for the Fulani ethnic group add that many of their community members, often conflated with jihadis, were also set free. Mali has been battling deep security crisis since 2012, facing threats from both Al-Qaeda and ISIS affiliates, as well as local criminal gangs. For now, the fuel is flowing again.
In Sao Tome and Principe, cocoa producers have launched an ambitious project to restore forest cover. The TRI, the Restoration Initiative, is supported by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization in its mission to strengthen sustainable cocoa production.
In Sao Tome and Principe, a new generation of cocoa producers is at the forefront of restoring degraded ecosystems and enhancing sustainable cocoa production with support from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Since 2019, more than 8,000 hectares of agroforestry areas have been restored. I started working in agriculture when I was 8 years old. I used to go with my mother to the plantation to harvest cocoa. She would harvest using a stick and we would gather the pods. I helped her break them open and carry them home. She always told me that a woman had to be able to do everything from harvesting and breaking the pods to weeding the farm, because we could never wait for a man. The project established nurseries to grow endemic fruits and other tree species, with now over 240,000 seedlings mainly produced and planted in agroforestry plots on both the Sao Tome and Principe Islands. Knowing that these cooperatives operate in degraded agroforestry areas, the project's primary objective is to involve them by providing financial support to restore agricultural landscapes. This is because in the recent past, these plots were subjected to widespread, indiscriminate tree cutting. These trees provide critical shade for cocoa production, which relies on a healthy forest canopy. The goal is to resize 6,000 hectares, or 1/3 of the country, by 2030. A key partner in this initiative is SECAP, the island's largest cooperative, uniting 37 producer groups and supporting more than 2,000 families. The presence of this factory was a dream come true for SECAP producers. They have always produced and exported, but it is the first time Sao Tome producers have their own factory and they are transporting their own produce. It is a great satisfaction. From vital ecosystem services associated with water, climate and soils to ecotourism, energy supply and raw materials, forests contribute trillions to the global economy and support millions of jobs worldwide.
In Benin, the chosen successor of President Patrice Talon is preparing for the upcoming presidential election. Romuald Wadagni, 49, and the ruling majority's candidate, unveiled his political program in Cotonou just days before the official start of the campaign. The election is scheduled for April 12th.
Benin's 2026 presidential campaign hasn't even started, but there's already a clear favourite. The ruling coalition's candidate, Romuald Wadagni. The 49-year-old, who served as finance minister for the last 10 years, is President Patrice Talon's designated successor. With the main opposition candidate barred from running, Wadagni is heavily favoured to win next month's race for the highest office. At a recent event in Cotonou, Wadagni laid out his platform before a crowd of supporters. He highlighted his plans to tackle extreme poverty and shore up the country's security. Talon is stepping down after 2 terms in office. He's presided over strong economic growth and efforts to modernise the West African nation. But critics say it's been at the expense of the democratic process, accusing him of restricting political opposition and curtailing basic freedoms.
And as every week on Africa News Today, here are some key dates to remember. From March 26th to 29th, the 14th WTO Ministerial Conference will be held in Yaoundé. Ministers from around the world are expected in Cameroon's capital to discuss the challenges and opportunities of the multilateral trading system. On March 30th, the inauguration of the President of the Central African Republic, re-elected for a third term last December, Faustin Archange Touadéra will be sworn in as the first President of the Seventh Republic. Authorities are planning a formal ceremony attended by several foreign delegations and representatives of international institutions. That's the end of Africa News Today. See you next week for another edition. For more information, stay tuned to Africa News and africanews.com.
The hospital, also known as Tamale Central Hospital, have begun a sit-down strike over what they say are 5 months of unpaid salaries. The absence of orderlies has left several wards and washrooms in poor sanitary condition, prompting concern from patients and staff who are calling for their immediate return. Our Northern Bureau Chief is Chawana Yusuf.
A visit by the Channel 1 news team found overflowing bins and a strong stench coming from washrooms in the children's ward, male ward and maternity ward, among other areas of the facility. Some patients and their relatives described the condition as uncomfortable, saying it is affecting their experience while seeking care.
But Milani, lecturer 5 months and they can move on 5 million.
Speaking to Channel 1 News, the Secretary of the Orderlies, Adam Suleiman Baba, said the group would continue the strike until their outstanding arrears are paid.
We have a problem with our salary. We work for almost about 5 months with no salary. And due to that, that's why we went for strike. And we even went to our management during the Ramadan fasting. We went to them and explained our problems to them that this Ramadan is not a lot of money. That is how we also told him that if that were the case, if we get that money to pay us, we are not going to work until we get our money.
One of the workers, Yakubu Sachibu, also expressed frustration, calling for changes in management to improve the running of the hospital.
So problem mania don't put down the management mama, but ponga to mama to but washing the Zaha, that management now. Because the last year that we have 5 million 500 Ghana cedis that we have. So the way that money to mama will have ponga to mama problem, but they don't wash but that new management.
Meanwhile, in a telephone interview, the medical director of the hospital, Dr. Richard Anthony, said management is working to resolve the situation.
The delay is inability to have the funds to pay them. We have been engaging them, and even the last time we met was Monday. And we have assured them once we have the money, we will pay them. So that is the bottom line of the whole situation.
That's crazy.
Well, the Ghana Catholic Bishops' Conference has filed an amicus brief in case before the Supreme Court of Ghana, seeking to provide legal arguments on religious rights in mission schools. The case, brought by private legal practitioner Shafiq Osman, challenges policies at Wesley Girls Senior High School, where he alleges Muslim students...
Okay, so this was a no bed syndrome. People sleeping on the floor they was talking about, and in Tamale Central Hospital. It's terrible. It's and then when the orderlies went on strike because they haven't been paid in 5 months, that's unacceptable. So the orderlies went on strike and they're not cleaning the hospital or taking the trash. Trash cans is all piled up. They're showing the video of the hospital, so that's why I'm looking at it on the television report that the hospital is filthy because the orderlies stopped working, stopped cleaning, stopped taking out the trash, stopped everything because they're on strike. 5 months. They only get paid 500 CDs a month. And you heard the lady say as soon as they get the money, they will pay them. Well, they're not going to work until they get paid. 5 months? That's too long. So I understand the strike. And the guys, they were calling for new management of the hospital. Somebody don't know how to manage the hospital or manage the money. So this is in Tamale, Ghana. All right, let's hear some China news. China is meeting around with other countries like this is Paris, France, and then Vietnam, and then Turkmenistan. I can't say that country. Turkmenistan. Turkestan is meeting with China, so on their 5-year plan.
In China to get his take on the American business community operating in the country.
What we're hoping for is dialogue, have a discussion, because if there's more clarity in the relationship, if there is more predictability, and if we build in the the guardrails, then we'll have less likely to have any disruptions. So the parties are talking. So what came out of Paris is all good news. We're talking about the two presidents getting together, and even if there is no grand bargain that's expected, and what we do expect that we're going to kind of see a continuation to move on a path of more dialogue, more discussion, because the more the parties talk, that even if it's just superficial discussions, it gives the business community a sense of optimism, and that's the optimism. The optimism is what we need for business confidence. It's an opportunity to be visionary, meaning to take the relationship on a path where there is, when it's more constructive, more positive, and where, in a way, that we can manage our differences. We can manage competition. We can collaborate in areas that are important to both sides, and I think that we're getting beyond that. I think that even within Washington, there's less talk of decoupling and more talk about finding ways to improve the relationship, to stabilize the relationship.
Chinese Vice Premier He Lifeng has met with French Finance Minister Roland Secours in Paris to discuss economic and financial cooperation and issues of common concern. He Lifeng, who is also China's head of the China-France high-level economic and financial dialogue, said China stands ready to work with France to implement the two presidents' consensus, deepen economic and financial cooperation, and promote steady bilateral economic relations. He also briefed the French side on the China-US economic and trade talks held in Paris over the past 2 days. Lescure, France's lead for the China-France dialogue, said France highly values cooperation with China and would advance pragmatic economic and financial cooperation for greater progress. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi and other senior Chinese officials have met their Vietnamese counterparts in Hanoi for the 3+3 strategic dialogue. Rabolin Buba has more.
3 senior Chinese officials, including Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, are in Hanoi, Vietnam, meeting their Vietnamese counterparts, including Vietnamese Foreign Minister Lê Hoài Trung, for talks on enhancing diplomatic relations, national defense, and public security at the very first ministerial meeting of the 3+3 strategic dialogue between the two nations.
In his 3-day visit, the Chinese foreign minister said the two sides had an in-depth exchange of views and reached broad consensus. Wang Yi said this signifies to the outside world that China and Vietnam will join hands to safeguard political security and jointly seek national development and rejuvenation. A Vietnamese Foreign Minister Trung said Vietnam is ready to work with China to advance practical cooperation in trade, investment, green development, and cultural exchange programs. He added, given the complexity and volatility of the international situation, it's more important than ever for the two sides to strengthen strategic communication, enhance strategic mutual trust, and cement strategic coordination. Chinese Public Security Minister Wang Xiaohong noted that the public security ministries of the two countries should focus on improving law enforcement and security cooperation mechanisms in areas such as cybersecurity, combating online gambling, telecom fraud, and drug control. Chinese Defense Minister Dong Jun said that China is willing to work with Vietnam to continuously enhance mutual trust in military security, jointly safeguard maritime security and stability, and push bilateral defense exchanges and cooperation to a new level. The Chinese delegation also met with To Lam, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, and Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh. The Vietnamese Prime Minister said that Vietnam is willing to work with China to implement the important consensus reached by the top leaders of the two parties to prepare for the next stage of high-level exchanges and jointly enhance political mutual trust. The meetings are held alongside the 17th meeting of the China-Vietnam Steering Committee for Bilateral Cooperation with the Vietnamese Deputy Prime Minister Bùi Thanh Xuân and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi co-chairing the meeting. The next ministerial meeting of the 3+3 Strategic Dialogue will be held in China. Robert Lin Purba, CGTN, Hanoi, Vietnam.
For more analysis, I'm joined in the studio by Su Xiaohui, Deputy Director at the Department of American Studies at the China Institute of International Studies. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Ms. Su. The meeting focused on law enforcement cooperation, including cybersecurity and combating online gambling and fraud and drug control. So how do you think the two sides will enhance cross-border security governance?
Well, you just mentioned the keyword governance, and both countries have been working with each other on the issues or topics related to cross-border crimes for quite a long time. And currently, both sides upgraded cooperation into governance. So talking about governance, first of all, the platform is very important. It is a 3+3 meeting for the first time between China and Vietnam. I believe the audience are familiar with the 2+2 platform. It means that both countries sent out the foreign ministers and defense ministers to have meetings simultaneously. It is kind of signal that both countries are working closely with each other. They consulted closely on diplomatic as well as security issues. But for the 3+3 meetings, especially between two neighbors, it is quite important that both countries believe that people's well-being is one of the major topics that both countries should work on. So as you mentioned, that a lot of important issues are on the agenda, and it is quite important for the two countries to boost the mutual trust, to try to carry out cooperation from economic and financial perspective, and at the same time to address some long-standing problems that bother the two countries, especially the civilians. So it is a quite an important signal for China and Vietnam to move forward for the cooperation. Both sides would like to deepen the cooperation and benefit the local people.
And as this year marks the 40th Beidou Gulf Joint Patrol and also the first naval exercise between China and Vietnam, how does it boost the maritime coordination, and what are your expectations for the future bilateral cooperation?
Well, as you may notice that Vietnam is a claimant of the South China Sea, so it is quite complicated for both countries to work on related issues. But we know that in the year 2000, the two countries signed agreement for the demarcation of the Beidou Gulf. So it was kind of starting point for the two countries to move forward besides the territorial disputes. So both countries sent out clear signal that as neighbors and as well as regional countries, we would like to put aside dispute and try to talk about the problem in bilateral platforms or from bilateral approaches. And both countries believe that we should boost the cooperation and at the same time try to address the complicated and sensitive issues. So the joint patrol as well as the exercise is kind of signal that mutual trust is building up. Even though we still have problems in the South China Sea, that both countries can manage the problem and avoid miscalculation and to move forward for the cooperation.
Thank you very much, Su Xiaohui, as always, for your insights. National leader of the Turkmen people and chairman of the People's Council of Turkmenistan Gubanggu Li Manobohong Electov is in China for goodwill visit. CGTN's Wang Hongjie reports on his arrival from the airport.
Gubanggu Li Belmar Hamidov, the national leader of the Turkmen people and the chairman of the People's Council of Turkmenistan, just landed at Beijing Capital International Airport for a 3-day visit to China. Since the establishment of the diplomatic relations in 1992, China and Turkmenistan have enjoyed a healthy and stable growth in bilateral ties. China and Turkmenistan are important trade partners with a strong economic complementarity. China has been Turkmenistan's largest trading partner for 13 consecutive years. Turkmenistan hosts the 4th largest natural gas reserves in the world and is the largest source of pipeline natural gas imports for China from Central Asia. As good friends with shared aspirations, China and Turkmenistan have also made notable achievements in fields such as education and culture. For example, the two sides are accelerating the Luban workshop program and are establishing cultural centers in each other's country. Turkmenistan has said it believes its strategy to revive the Great Silk Road aligns well with China's Belt and Road Initiative, and China is also ready to deepen exchanges and cooperation to build a China-Turkmenistan community with a shared future.
Turkey.
CGTN, Beijing.
That's about. Let's have a history lesson.
Was to me the most important figure in in world history.
Marcus Garvey.
Because he organized the biggest black organization in the history of mankind, till Universal Negro Improvement Association, the UNIA. It organized 6 million plus African people in the 20s. This is before cell phone, the internet. He organized 6 million plus African people. You know why till this day he has been able to be the greatest black leader to ever exist? Is because in his organization he never discriminated on black people based on religion, based on sororities, based on class, based on education. His idea was if we're all black, if we all have African ancestry, and if we all have a strong African descent, we are one. That is why he was able to organize black people in America, in South America, in Europe, in any continent you can think of. Garvey had a chapter.
Okay.
Garvey did something. Garvey inspired most of our freedom fighters. Kwame Nkrumah, Osagyefo Kwame Nkrumah has cited Garvey. Nnamdi Azikiwe of Nigeria has cited Garvey as his mentor. And many other, Patrice Lumumba, all the nation builders, all the nation starters that we think of now have cited Garvey as their main inspiration. Okay. He lit a fire into every single freedom fighter's back to fight against imperialism.
That's very interesting to learn.
Yeah, and I wish Kenyans and Africans would really take time because every black figure you can think of who came after the 20s, Malcolm X, MLK, Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, even here in Africa, Patrice Lumumba, Julius Nyerere, Kwame Nkrumah, especially Kwame Nkrumah. All the freedom fighters that we think of now were inspired by the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
Well, it's interesting that you've taken his inspiration to the next level at this age, because somehow, as you watch over the years, the spirit of Pan-Africanism, it's not been, at its highest, so to say. When you look at the African leadership at the moment, who would you say is still driving the Pan-Africanism dream?
I would say the person who has started well is, of course, the Sahel, especially Captain Ibrahim Traore. And I believe that if he continues like this, he will be one of the most important African leaders that we'll ever have. We need that consistency. The problem with African leaders is consistency. Mm-hmm. So I pray that he just continues with the good work. There's some who are trying. Duma Boko of Botswana and Mama Nandi of Namibia. Namibia, and of course Mali with Goita and Chiani of Niger. Those are the ones who I'm seeing that they are trying. But so far,
those are the people you're citing.
Yeah, people are starting to get tired of democracy. You know, people have I think people are starting to see that our democracy is rigged, and our democracy is heavily inspired, heavily interfered with Western powers. And you see Traore, very young, in his 30s.
Yes.
Young people like me, I can tell you for a fact, you know, I think young people have reached a point whereby, I mean, you can even see it in Tanzania. Tanzanians are some of the most calm people and some of the most peaceful people we have ever seen. But even them, they've reached a boiling point. The young people there have reached a boiling point. And if Tanzanians can reach a boiling point, then it just goes to show you that, young people are tired of bad leadership, are tired of corruption, are tired of neo-colonialism, and they want a change. The almighty, those days are over. Those days are over. Presidents have to realize that you are not a god.
Yeah.
You are not a god.
Yes.
You're just a man just like me. First of all, I pay your salary. I work hard day and night to ensure that I pay your salary.
Yes.
So I'm entitled to give you a performance appraisal and tell you you're not doing well. And also I'm entitled to fire you. So keep that in mind. Because you see these African leaders out here, you've forgotten how you got there. You got there because people elected you.
Yes.
Not like you didn't elect yourself. People elected you. So that's the vibe of young people now in Africa. Yeah.
Because I feel like in the past, then fear that was instilled on people made them very scared of speaking, and then we lost so much. So I have a very interesting question. Do you think Africa is democratic or enjoys democracy?
Actually, you know what? If it was up to me, democracy has its pros and cons. Because, like I said, our democracy is heavily interfered by the West.
What does that mean exactly?
The West are the ones who elect our leaders. They are the ones who put who they want so they can protect and further their interest. If you ask me, the best way to execute democracy, I would urge young people to start organizing into something called a youth organized voting bloc. Not a political party, not these political outfits that we are used to. In this youth organized voting bloc contains the votes of the youth and anybody from any other generation who are siding with the youth. And then we come together and say, guys, we all want a better country. We all want good leadership. We all want an end of corruption. We all want taxes to go down. We all want all these good things so that our lives can be better in this country.
Yeah.
So we are all united in our pain. We are all united in our agony. We are all united into one thing, and that's changing this country. So in this youth organized voting bloc, we have the same agenda into making this country better. So what do? We don't push we don't push personalities, we push ideas. The problem with African leadership and African democracy is that for so long we have been pushing personalities, and where has that led us? Instead of us thinking about ideas, we have been pushing personalities. Some personalities have been around politics for 40, 30, 20, 10 years, and if you ask me, in this youth organized voting bloc, we unite in our pain, and we shut down our manifesto. We shut down our list of demands that is heavily crafted by experts in this youth organized voting bloc, by lawyers, by economic experts, by education, experts from various fields, we come up with a manifesto that can change this country. Then we say now, who's running for president? Maraga, Gachagua, Kalonzo. Now, in order for them to win, they have to pass through us. Because in this youth organized voting bloc, just by people organizing in this youth organized voting bloc, we have formed the majority of the voting population. So they have no choice for them to win an election.
Well, the African youth are tired. These are the young adults in Africa. And they are forming an Afro Union for the United States of Africa. The United States of Africa. Got to topple all these old leaders that's holding on to their leadership in these countries, these African countries, and become the United States of Africa.
A new scramble for Africa. There is actually something that is deja vu about the Berlin conference, and you see it in different ways. The interests are different. The Chinese are present through infrastructure. The Russians are also trying to get in through energy negotiations. You see that in the Sahel. You see the British pretty much emphasizing on the organization called the Commonwealth, and I think you see those meetings becoming more and more frequent, entering into negotiations. You see the French getting even into countries that were not French colonies. In the year 2026, Kenya is scheduled to hold French-Africa meeting in Nairobi, Kenya. They are getting into those spaces. The Portuguese are not as active. And of course, the United States of America is present in almost every corner. What one therefore sees is that there is a scramble for Africa. And Africa, unfortunately, is not organized. You see, many African institutions are crumbling. And you see African countries are increasingly going into bilateral relationship with European countries and even with other countries. That is why you see bilateral negotiations on health, bilateral negotiations on things such as AGOA, bilateral negotiations with different countries, and if they are unilateral, is European Union against Kenya, European Union against Eswatini, the United States and Eswatini, and all these are telling you that Africa is really food for everybody. Unfortunately, she's been lulled into a false sense of security. And once again, history is repeating itself. The mother continent is being eaten alive. Our resources are being taken. And in this age of AI, one can imagine how our industries will be controlled remotely and otherwise. If Africa does not organize herself, and she had better, she will be recolonized.
Voice of Africa by
I'm going to repeat, the youth are tired. We need the Afro Union to come together and form the United States of Africa. I repeat, the United States of Africa.
It has affected every single part of your life. Absolutely. The abuse that Epstein subjected you to. Mm-hmm. Journalista, what does justice look like for you?
Honestly, just starting with some accountability and arresting people and investigating and doing their jobs. I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever be able to fully have justice. So to be able to ask that question, I feel like is like, will we truly ever have full justice in this? No.
I'll say that my justice would be to move on and never hear about this man's name again. In the future, I would like a generation not to know who Jeffrey Epstein is someday.
I agree. I mean, I don't know that there really is
a justice that we can get, especially with Epstein not being around anymore. We don't get our answers. I have questions I'll never get an answer to. And so for me, there's not really any, but I just hope that we can see through this and never have anything like this happen again.
What is an example of a question that you think you'll never get the answer to?
I guess just why? Why us? Why?
But why at all?
Well, yeah, like what? Just, I don't know. That just why?
I'd say that justice is to be able to not go to bed at night feeling like the world in a way turned on me for speaking about what I've been through.
I mean, that is just devastating when you talk about that.
Sorry, I swore I wasn't going to cry.
You don't need to say so. The UK's most senior police officer, he's called Sir Mark Rowley, was here in Washington DC recently, seeking unredacted evidence, seeking original copies of evidence as part of the Metropolitan Police's own investigations. What do you think of that? What should the US authorities do when a British police officer says, please can we have this information?
Why haven't you already given it over? Why does he have that? Why are they having to come here and ask for it? They know this stuff is in the files and have for a long time. Why haven't you already given that? And that's not just for the UK, that's for any other country that is involved in any of this. Like, if you have that information, you should be giving it to those people to investigate.
You have very kindly brought photographs of each of you at the age at which Epstein initially abused you. I wonder if I could ask you to share those photographs with our audience. I wanted to ask you, Joanna, when you look at yourself then, how does that make you feel?
Very sad. This girl didn't know a lot. And I was a lot more innocent then.
And I can see that you've got tears in your eyes as you look at yourself.
Yeah.
Does it feel like a different life?
It does. Even my smile's different. I don't smile the same way anymore.
That is really sad. Chantal, when you look at yourself?
This was right after when the assaults were happening. I think I had just come out of being in the hospital in this photo.
Why were you in hospital?
After the initial first assault, I went into a very violent vomiting attack that lasted for weeks, and I had to be hospitalized for it. I almost died, actually.
Oh my God.
And then I had somebody actually take me out of the hospital and nurse me back to health. Yeah.
Okay. Lisa?
I don't know, this is hard for me. I'm just looking at this picture very differently than I ever have before, because you triggered me, because I was different here too. This is the island behind me.
Epstein's Island.
Yeah, so I was heading to it. Look how happy I am. I was on a photo shoot, I was with a friend, I was enjoying my life, and I had no idea what was about to happen to me. This is not what I looked like when I left the island.
Lisa?
I guess this is just makes me sad. It just makes me sad for her. I was already in a broken place with my family, and instead of someone genuinely helping me, they just broke me more. So it just reminds me how hard it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at ours together and it breaks me. Because we're not it's not just me and her, there's others of us.
And obviously, you look so young because you were. I mean,
and it breaks my heart, like, you know, that's how I remember Wendy, and she is my best friend from then until now. And me being the person that helped bring her. I mean, we were so stupid and so innocent at the same time. It was just, yeah.
You were innocent.
Yeah.
You weren't stupid.
We trusted the wrong people.
Yeah.
You know?
Thank you for sharing those with us. What is your message to survivors, Epstein survivors who perhaps haven't come forward yet, or those watching you right now who may be being sexually abused or have been in their past? What do you want to say to them?
It's not your fault. And you're not the one who should feel the shame and dirty and wrong when somebody else did something to you.
She's not alone in this ride. You're not.
I would say probably just find your voice and burn it all down until you're heard.
Until you're heard?
Yes.
Lisa, like that. When you get together like this, it's obviously bloody hard because we've seen that today. And you talked about the fact that you keep saying these things and nothing changes. And so I want to say thank you so much. Honestly, I really, really appreciate it. Coming together to talk about some really, really devastating and traumatic experiences and the continued trauma for our audience. Thank you so, so much.
Well, you just heard from the victims about not receiving justice from the Epstein trials, and it's terrible. But we women have been taken advantage of, and we're sick of being taken advantage of, I know. So I had to replay this. All right, let's get a little bit of sports, and then I'll close.
Problems there with our connection, audio connection to Maju Pinnick, a former member of the FIFA board and former president of the Nigerian Football Federation, has been assessing CAF's appeals board decision of withdrawing the AFCON from Senegal, who won it just in January here in Morocco, and awarding it to Morocco. He was explaining how independent first that the appeals board is and the General Congress, and of course talking about the phenomenal growth under the present CAF president from 2001, where income generated and profit by CAF has risen from 5 million to well over 190 million. Well, we just hope that we'll be able to get Maju Pinnick back during the course of our bulletin. But I think what we'll do now, we'll just go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll see if we'll have him back on the show. Stay with us. Abuja, Nigeria's capital city, I'm Christian Ogno. Yes, we're glad to let you know that Maju Pinnick is back, and we'll continue with the line of discussion over CAF's appeals board decision to take away the AFCON trophy won by Senegal and awarded it to Morocco. So, Maju, nice having you back, and apologies for the internet satellite connectivity that made us lose you earlier. So you were making the point, because I wanted to ask you, how independent is the appeals board of CAF? And when you look at Article 5 of the laws of the game instituted by IFA, how would you reconcile what the appeals board is done as against what the referee did? Finished officiating that competition, medals were awarded and everything. Can you reconcile that the present decision of the appeals board?
Yeah, first I'll tell you very emphatically that the appeals board and the disciplinary board are completely independent. When I mean completely independent, you cannot interfere. They were, like I told you earlier on, they were elected on the floor of the Congress. The Congress is the highest decision-making body. They were not appointed by the CAF president or the CAF executive committee. So they take responsibility for their actions or inactions. And they also know the consequences for taking decisions that are not in line with the statutes, So the truth is, but like I told you earlier on, I just feel very, very bad about the situation because the optics regarding aligning the name of Patrice Musepe, the president of CAF, is somebody that has made huge sacrifices, since he came on in 2021 till date. You can see how CAF has been amassing a lot of revenue, from 2021 to 2020, the last three outcomes. So, and talking about IFAB, their laws and the referees, of course, on the pitch, the referee is the boss. After the tournament, after each match, the referee will submit his report. So based on this report, whoever wants to take it up from there, they can take it up. But like I said, it's very sensitive. I'm not going to talk about the technicalities or otherwise of this issue. All what we are trying to preach is for them to know that CAF, as an institution, would not wake up one morning and decide to see Morocco. No. They've been presidents in the past, If you look at in 2017, I think it was Senegal, Ghana, where a referee that was banned by FIFA even went on to CAS. But exactly what happened? CAF upheld the decision of FIFA and he was given a life ban, and that match was replayed. So this is not the end of it. Senegal obviously is going to CAS, and CAS eventually will determine, based on whatever they believe is right. So, and I just believe everybody should stay calm. The Court of Arbitration for Sports will come out with a final decision. So I don't want to keep dwelling on it. But like I said, this is not this is not the final adjudicatory decision on this issue.
Yes, absolutely. But you see, our viewers will be a bit disappointed in you not wanting to share your technical knowledge of the game, because you've operated at the highest level, at the FIFA level and the rest, so that they can better understand, the indices of this decision.
There's nothing that you want me to say that your reporter, who did a very thorough job, have not said. She said A to Z of it regarding the laws of the game, and like I said, I'm not authorized by CAF to speak, even though I'm the presidential advisor to the CAF president. I'm not authorized to speak. I'm just speaking because I've gotten calls from all over the world since last night up till this moment. If you look at my eyes, not slept. So I just believe this is a platform that I can reach out to an appreciable level of audience, just to situate things accordingly, making them understand that the CAF leadership does not have a hand in whatever decision that was taken. That I can tell you for free. In the same way you are surprised, I believe the same way the CAF president is also surprised.
And what more? What more?
Like I said, this is not the end of it.
Yeah, very well indeed. What more can you tell us for free? Senegal has said they are not going to return the prize money. They are not going to return the trophy and the medals, and of course, as expected, they are going to the Court of Sports Arbitration for further adjudication of the matter. If you answer that, and secondly, don't you think the African referees need retraining and constant retraining? particularly from what we saw in the last AFCON
I
tournament?
believe since post-AFCON, let me take your referee's question first. Post-AFCON, there's been a lot going on in terms of not just officiating, to even better a lot of in terms of organization, administration, and other aspects of the game to enhance the beautiful game of football. There's like a post-mortem that has been going on. It's not just sui generis to referees or officiating in other areas. So I can tell you for free that has been going on. We've had like 3 executive committee meetings. We also have another one on the 29th of this month. And these are the issues that are on the front burner. So, and as for Senegal going to CAS, of course, it is their inalienable right for them to go to CAS. If I were Senegalese, definitely I would go to CAS to see how, because to us, this prize, of course, this trophy is priceless. So they want to explore every adjudicatory means in obtaining that decision. If you feel that they were shortchanged, and I don't think it's abnormal for them to go where they have gone to. As for Morocco, I believe also they did what they believe was right to them. And like I said, it's quite sensitive. Both countries will always wish them well. And that is the best we can do.
All right, thank you so very much. Amaju Pinnick, former FIFA board member, former president of the Nigerian Football Federation, and right now special advisor to the CAF president. Thanks for your time on Newsnight. We'll go.
Okay, so that was the sports, Poor People's News discussion. Senegal was stripped of the FIFA Cup, and they gave it to Morocco. So Senegal is appealing.
Was increased to about 35?
Of course. So then the bracket has opened up.
So now
yes.
we've opened it up to
more people.
Based on concerns by some party faithful.
I
who
agree.
are questioning their MPs.
I agree. And I mean, the party people are also Ghanaians. They also deserve to go. And once they qualify, it doesn't matter if they are party people or not party people. Once they qualify and they are Ghanaians, they are entitled to. But I don't think that recruitment will be entirely based on party lines. It will be based on other factors as well. True. But being NDC or being MPP is immaterial. What is more material is the fact that you qualify.
The MPs will get their
security service recruitment.
I don't know. He's a former MP. Perhaps he'll be able to tell us what happened under their term and if that same thing is being done here. But I don't know whether MPs have quota or not.
Because with this 500,000, I mean, where would you place the MPs quota? Who are you taking out?
Security service recruitment in Ghana.
Being non-partisan.
Can you?
5,000.
Let's replace that.
First of all, I cry because in other places they are begging people to join the service.
True.
They are begging people.
True.
Yeah.
Largely because employment is good. And let me say categorically that many of the people looking to join the service are not necessarily enthusiasts in this country. It is out of circumstance of working hard in school, getting good grades, being ready to join the workforce, and nothing being available. So that is one thing. This is a huge demonstration of the fact that our unemployment in this country is troubling.
Yeah.
Troubling.
Yeah.
We have, up to the extent of medical doctors waiting at home to be placed. That is serious.
Yeah.
Nurses.
2
or 4 years back at home, waiting to be employed. And this is a country where there are no beds for the sick.
Yeah.
This is serious.
That's real serious.
So I think that our head is not screwed on well as a nation.
Yeah.
As a nation.
True.
How we manage ourselves in terms of key employment and creating jobs. We have a huge problem.
Yep.
And to the extent that people are joining the British Army from Ghana because there are no jobs here.
Come on,
people who have never seen the British flag or interested in joining anything British are going. We have people in Ukraine fighting for Ukraine. They can't speak even one word, Ukraine or Russia. And these are quite troubling for me. And I also, I was a school of thought, and I say this, and I said this even during our tenure, that when you have fewer slots and you open it up, it becomes a scam. And I say this with no fear, the key thing is that why sell hope to many when you know that the chances are so slim? Is it a lottery? Actually, the gaming man, he sees it as
a lottery. It's a lottery.
First of all, let's admit that unemployment is a huge problem.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
The country specific.
Oh, I'm talking about Ghana. And let me also add, let me also add this key thing. First of all, even the ratio of security services to population is off. We don't have the appropriate numbers. In terms of, for instance, in my constituency with about 300,000 people, the number of police men or women on the ground is woefully inadequate.
Yes, it is.
And that is one major problem. So, if the president has come to that realization, nice. But 40,000 in the next 4 years, we're looking at 30 million people. Calculate.
No, they can't.
Well, there's attrition to some extent.
That's right.
Some servicemen will die. One just shot himself or got killed. I mean, we don't know. We need replacements.
We need jobs right away. Right away.
We have a police hospital that has not been completed for years.
Yep.
It's entering into decades. How serious are we as a country?
Yeah.
The police hospital expansion. I'm making my point that, listen, you have police hospital expansion sitting there. If you open that, do you know how many more nurses you can employ? Do you know how many more cleaners you can employ? I mean, these are,
but then you know the point that it appears to be a scam. If you have 5,000 and you open up 5,000, so I'm asking what's the alternative?
And I'm saying that about my own government.
I was talking about government.
So my key point is that, listen, in the first place, if you're going to do 5,000, you better not exceed like 100,000.
Okay.
I mean, listen, that is ludicrous. And I think somebody should take them to court. You can't, create 500,000 applicants for 5,000 slots. That is serious fraud.
Yes, fraud.
Serious fraud.
Yes, it is fraud.
I think that there should have been a limit in terms of 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
There was a time limit.
Frame. No, I mean, listen, they extended it.
Yes,
but let me
listen for it.
No, it doesn't make it right.
But you know how they do
it right.
And this is online, so the data and everything to show you how many applications you have received.
And even now, let me say this, that listen, we could have streamlined. I don't know why one individual can apply to 4 security agencies. It's really not right. But I know that, these are the systems. So why don't we have one aptitude test and then you have your preference as we choose? My first preference is immigration. Second is this.
You
understand?
They sold the vouchers to almost everybody. If you want to buy a voucher for prison service, you did. For immigration, you did. However, when it came to the exams, the one aptitude test that you wrote covered everything. Yes.
That's why I say that this thing is a game.
That's a scam.
So then, you can't give me that.
In all of this, the key thing is that, listen, the youth want employment.
That's what they want.
And they see
hire the
these are
kids.
public gateways. And it shouldn't be so. We need to re-engineer our country so that we create jobs.
That's right.
For the youth.
That's true.
And we need to shy away from
not talking about the main issue, which is people are completing school and we can't find jobs. And then in all of this too, let me admit that our Ghanaian attitudes need to change.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Some people should be willing to understudy people.
Right.
The old way of apprenticeship, which is lost on many of us, because during the apprenticeship, the apprenticee wants to have what the Ogboro has already, and these are things that our Ghanaian attitude needs to work on. I must admit, listen, in all fairness, I've been with Chinese people, and when they start work, they are looking at the skill first before the money. I have Chinese business owners who are not looking at buying the first Mercedes. They are looking at how they can expand the business. So some of our attitudes in this country,
yes, all about money.
Forgive me, the young ones or the young guns, we feel that right away we need to be at where the director for services are, without paying attention that listen, that we need to groom ourselves and go through the mill so that when we arrive we can make very powerful, good decisions. And apprenticeship has to be revisited, and our thinking about how we do things in this country so that we can create more jobs. And family members, let me tell you this, if you finish as a nurse,
your parents are watching.
Once you start working, the whole family is on you, and then you realize that your salary doesn't mean anything, and then you have to do all kinds of things. So we really have a problem in this country, and unemployment. This is a symptom or a signal of the troubling times we're in for our youth who do not have work.
Yes, our youth needs work. We need to get it.
I think that over time, one of the things we need to do is to change our educational system.
Okay.
We train more and more liberal and arts people than skilled professionals. And if you watch carefully, we are receiving a trend in Ghana that we are not paying attention to. Now, if you want a good POP guy, he has to go to police. If you want a tiler, he has to go to police. If you want a good carpenter, he has to be someone else. So slowly, the areas that we could have easily found work for our people, because construction doesn't cease. People continue to build. We are a developing country. But our technical schools, you find people from Accra Poly, wherever Poly, telling you that I want to go to police, I want to go to prison service. When indeed you have acquired skills as plumber, as a tiler, as a mason, that could easily offer you employment. And if we are not careful, all those areas that predominantly is reserved for Ghanaians will be taken over, because you can't find qualified persons who are ready to offer it. So we need to change the educational system.
I also think that, let me be a bit difficult with what you said.
Yeah, because it's not right. You can find people.
In the US, you train on the job. So,
that's right. So
I must say that employers also need to look at that.
Exactly.
So
train them.
You
work.
bring people on board and train them.
That's right. You
train them well.
That's right.
Treat them,
and pay them.
That 6 months time they'll be efficient.
Yes.
So
pay
there's
them.
no idea of necessarily, you can be an engineer, and forgive me, when you are put in an engineering capacity, you cannot do photography technician, because you need that 6 months or 1 year training. And I am rather pushing that employers should train people well, so that they can actually do the job well. So in this country of ours, we are struggling. We are building more churches than
churches. I see all the churches.
These are some of our problems.
That's issue.
Where people
churches ain't
work
doing nothing.
Wednesday to go to church for, our productivity.
Church for what?
Is going down. So in all of this, it's not the doing of the Interior Minister, except for the fact that our country's youth employment is off the roof.
Yes, it is.
And I'm waiting to hear from the Minister for Youth and Employment to
to comment on this.
Wait, there's labor.
What is
So
it?
labor is separate.
Yes, that's
labor
separate.
and employment. And then there's youth
and
what about
youth development.
The youth
Yes, that's it.
youth development. I understand he's a fantastic guy, but I think that he should come out and say something.
Yeah.
And not hide somewhere.
Yeah, he's hiding.
But he's doing it.
I said he's a fantastic guy.
Sometimes you have to be careful not to see us interfering with other ministers.
Yes, but I need you to help me make sense of something, to understand something. So over 500,000 have applied. We have slots for 5,000. All of these are paid for it. Now we're being told over 200,000 have qualified for medicals. 105,000. Medicals is going to cost 1,600. But we have 5,000 slots. Are all 105,000 going to pay this 1,600?
No. I'm going to invite you into to come and go through the medicals. You get it?
Yeah.
And before you get there, you need to pay.
Right.
Before you do that.
Pay what?
Now it is then that they would confirm whether or not you meet the criteria.
So the payment is for the service, not guarantee of qualification.
No.
The payment is for various lab processes.
You check your blood pressure, your
other
height.
things that you do.
That should be free
In
too.
Ghana, if you have hernia, you can't unfortunately.
See.
Or if you've done even surgery before. Some things are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Some things are ridiculous.
The World Bank has come out to say that there's about 1.2 billion, youth, okay, that are unemployed.
Yeah.
Okay, but not just being unemployed, but then they don't have even employable skills.
And it's around the world.
Yeah, it's around the world. And so Ghana is not peculiar in this matter. However, there's something that I think that we can do, which Dixon was alluding to.
Yeah, train them.
Except that he put it at the doorstep of employers.
On the job
But I
training.
think it goes beyond employers to even our educational system,
Yeah.
to parenting.
Yeah, from parenting to the schools.
Okay, parenting.
But you got to invest.
Now, when we were growing up, we were told that, go school, learn hard, pass well, and then when you are done, you go and get a job and come and look after the family. So you are is it? So you are the family's, investment.
Yeah, you invested in you.
The future breadwinner. Now, over the years, have we been able to meet that kind of expectation?
Nope.
It's becoming increasingly clear that we are not meeting that.
No, we're not.
This is Breakfast Day. We're having the News Review segment. Larry Dobe will wrap up his thoughts on the recruitment into the security services. And then I read a few of your messages and we can move on. So, Larry.
So breakfast how much we have spoken about this? He should just have left it the way it is. Now, in talking, if he had to talk about it at all, he should talk about, hey, let's academia come together. Which one? The employers or the industry should come together. Listen, the internship thing, okay? Let's insist on it. Okay, you get it? So, I mean, there is trouble. There is trouble. So we will have issues like this where 500,000, people are looking out for, 5,000 jobs. And like I'm saying, these are all just paper holders. And like this is it. It's not about they being interested in serving the nation. They want to fight crime because they have watched Rambo or Chuck Norris or Van Damme.
On the car when I watch No Retreat, No Surrender.
Please, in a very short a few minutes or seconds. The intervention by the president is very welcoming. It's welcoming because you see you have immediate solutions and a long-term solution. what you are prescribing, where industry should sit together with academia and have discussions, this will come out with policies that would help. But we have graduates who have finished school now, who want jobs, who are applying to join the security service. Then we have the need for the security services. A lot of we don't know we do.
Yeah, we
Our
have a need.
constraint perhaps is budgetary constraints. But the president's intervention is that let's increase the number, and that is very welcome because we have a looming problem in our hands
This thing
now.
has always been there. We remember the YEA thing, the community police, police, social youth, and you get so it's also
so many different
yes, that it has always been there.
Yes,
the same politicians have used it. I recall Akufo-Addo saying that, listen, this is a national security threat.
Yeah.
By the time he was leaving, the solution he gave, which was the NAPCO, whatever it's
some beneficiaries are still being owed.
Thank you.
This is a regular employment, unlike NAPCO and all the other short-term interventions. And the president's intervention is to increase the number so that we can at least reduce the pressure that is being mounted on the Ministry of Interior at the moment. And of course, you see, he has 5,000. If the president says increase the number, it means that we can have 10,000, which will mean that we can have more people give the opportunity to get into the security service. And it's a good intervention, it's welcoming. The only challenge that we should now start.
I read the statement and I didn't understand it. Did you understand it?
All right. I'm going to end this with our Ghana Poor People's News and the discussion in Ghana. In the hood, they're talking about these 5,000 jobs and security service jobs that they offered, that they were sent out a call for, but then 15,000 or 20,000, 100,000 more people showed up, and then they charging for this application fee, and then they calling it a fraud. So, woo! But anyway, and then they turn away people who have already paid for their application, put their application in and paid. So we're saying they need to be refunded. So it's fraud going on. So that's what they're saying. They don't get their money back for their application fee. Application should be free. That's my take on it. Because in America, we don't charge for you to submit no application, And then they talking about you have to have a checkup, That should be free too. It's all on the employer. Everything was on the employer to get the right candidate or right employee. So anyway, this is our old news, but it's our poor people's news that we need to hear, and that's what was going on in Ghana. They're trying to get the kids working in Ghana. All right. So come back next Tuesday, Topic Tuesday. Come back for more of my old news for us poor people, our poor people's news. Oh, yeah.
The paragraph that says 4,000, 40,000 over 4 years.
Yes, I didn't
So it is announced earlier on as part of the government recruitment program into the security services to have 20,000 people over.
I'm saying the president should fire a lot of the retirees who are contract extension. You free the space. That is one. You get it. Tell me that, listen, police, by the budget we did, you're supposed to do 200 officers. But because of this intervention that I'm doing, you are to do 250. Do you understand? But when you tell me that, you are 14 over, it communicates nothing.
It communicates a lot. It's a program. It's an ongoing program for the next 4 years, which helps in planning and preparedness.
That's it. Yeah. These are institutions that have age.
Indeed.
Age.
And it's good that you bring up the issue of overage persons who are still there. Of course, I mean, there are plans.
Even the IGP himself is overage.
Oh, really?
Even the IGP himself is overage.
You don't mean it.
Do you understand?
The president has made a U-turn on that policy.
Yes, they sack the overage people.